Hey guys, my name is Toby and welcome back to another very exciting Photoshop tutorial where today we're going to be taking a look at how to straighten an image without cropping it. And this is kind of cool because a lot of the time when you go to straighten an image, you simply do it by kind of cropping and rotating. So if I hit C to access the crop tool, if we rotate this image, you can see that the more I rotate it, it actually starts to kind of cut into the image and we end up with a much smaller picture. Plus, we're throwing away things that we don't necessarily want to take out of the picture. So I'm going to hit Escape just to revert that. Now, what we do want to do is just straighten this up a little bit because it's a tiny bit too wonky, but I don't want to kind of lose kind of the edge of his apron there because I think if that just cut into his neck, that would look a bit strange. I also don't want to lose any more of this fire. So we want to find a way of straightening this without actually losing any of the information we have here. So the way we're going to do that is by actually using Photoshop's content aware system to add in more picture that doesn't currently exist. So what we're going to do is I like to use the straighten tool up here. So with the crop tool selected, you have this icon at the top. And the reason I like to do this is it's just a little bit more accurate most of the time than trying to do it by hand, which is a perfectly fine way of doing it. But we can just click and drag this out and kind of line it up with the back of this sort of kitchen area here, which has a straight line in it. And then when I release, that is going to automatically straighten our photo. Now, as you can see, we've now lost the side of his apron and a bit of the flame. So to get that back, we need to make our crop actually a little bit bigger. But in order to do that, we're going to use two keyboard shortcuts to help us get this looking nice and professional. So the first keyboard shortcut we're going to hold down is Alt or Option if you're on a Mac. And what this does is it basically means that whenever we move this around, it's going to move it from the center rather than from one of the corners, which means that when we expand this, it's going to be nice and even. The other keyboard shortcut we're going to hold down is Shift, because what Shift does is it will constrain the crop to the original ratio of the photo. So it's keeping it in that nice 2:3 ratio. So I'm just going to drag this out a little bit and there we go. And now I'm going to hit Enter. So we now have these four kind of checkerboard triangles that go around our image. And what we need to do now is select them. So I'm going to hit W on the keyboard, which is going to give us our magic wand tool. And we can click on this top one here. And that's given us some marching ants around that. Now we need to select all four of these at once. So to do so, I'm going to hold down Shift, which is going to put a little plus underneath our cursor. And this means that we can now add to our selection. So I'm going to now, while holding Shift, click the other three triangles, and it's going to make sure we have all four of those selected at once. Now, before we can use Content Aware, there is one thing that we do need to do. So if I just zoom in here, you can see that our selection goes right up to the very edge of the image, but doesn't actually include any pixels. It's just got this transparent area selected. So what we need to do is we need to actually expand our selection so that it has some of the image in it just to grab from. It just makes the whole process go a lot better. So we want to go up to Select, Modify, and then you've got an option here called Expand. Now this is set to 10 pixels because this is a value that I tend to use a lot for this. But you know, you might want to scale this up and down depending on your image. This is kind of a 21 megapixel image, I believe. So 10 pixels is kind of, you know, pretty good most of the time, maybe 10, 15. Smaller images, you may need to use less pixels. So I'm going to hit Enter. And as we can see, this is now actually pushed into our shot a little bit. So we have some of the image grabbed as well. So now we need to use Content Aware, and we can do that by pressing Shift and F5. This is going to bring up our fill options. And where it says Contents, you need to make sure that you have Content Aware selected. Blend mode normal, opacity 100, and that will be fine. So now we'll hit Enter and let Photoshop do its thing. So as we can see, it's done a pretty good job for the most part of getting that sorted for us. Now, there are a couple of problem areas, namely the edge of his apron here and a bit of the ceiling. So I'm going to press Command D or Control D if you're on the PC to deselect. And we're just going to zoom in here and just manually kind of fix this. So, you know, the point of this is not a perfect solution every time, but it will do a lot of the work for you. And sometimes it does just work without having to touch anything. Unfortunately, we do have to do a little bit more here. So I'm going to press S to select the clone stamp tool. Maybe just make it a bit smaller. And I'm going to hold down Alt and sample from somewhere else on his clothes. Maybe just make this brush quite a lot harder, just so we can get a nice edge on just on here. And we'll just smooth that off there. So, you know, it's not perfect, but I think that will do. And then up here, because I've got a funny gradient, I'm just going to use the healing brush. So I'm just going to press J on the keyboard to get to the traditional healing brush, not the spot healing brush. I'm going to hold down Alt to sample from just here, and we're just going to paint this area out. And then maybe we'll have to clone stamp in this last bit just here, just to get that out, and then back to the healing brush just to smooth out that edge, and there we go. You'd never know it was there. And I can see one final thing I'd fix, which is it hasn't quite continued this line on as I would have liked it to, so we're just going to manually come in here, or maybe we'll use the healing brush again since that seems to be working a little bit better because of the funny lighting. Do something like that. Same thing here, we'll just do that, and that's pretty good. And I think I'm pretty happy with that. So we've gone from there to there. We haven't cropped into our image, but it is now definitely much, much straighter. Hopefully that's been helpful. My name is Toby. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.